narrow with a typical sedan. You might feel pretty enclosed.
Yeah.
But this opens it right back up again.
So this is the final.
That one is the final.
I almost thought it could be omnidirectional. It almost feels like it could go in either direction. I mean, I know you didn't do that, but
That was the original. We actually had that kind of idea to doing something
this
symmetrical.
is traditional, but as you move towards this, it felt like,
Yeah, because there's the two people sitting, tandem sitting doesn't fit this kind of profile of that design too much because that somebody was gonna hit the windows.
Yeah.
So that's why we slowly moved to like this kind of
yeah,
direction.
I think it works. You know, you don't need the right windshield. It's not.
And I know like in a lot of like Chinese cities, like so the roads it's just very narrow. Also in San Francisco too. So this kind of car will actually bring in that vehicle easily through all of the traffic, passengers, or motorbikes, all of the things going through.
Are these to the same scale?
Yes.
18
Everything is the same. Yeah, so it's tiny, right? It's
So if you
18 scale.
compare the footprint,
Yeah, that one's golf. That one's shabby.
it is kind of, well, the truck I get. Yeah, well, I don't know. I guess this is America
Jay
right
has
here,
Jay
right?
has a whole other business plan here. Like
What
a
is-
truck so big you can take a car in it.
What is the business model? Do you think about that at all? Is it how does that work? Is it a subscription plus mileage? Do you talk at all?
Yeah.
Plus
I mean,
mileage?
Charles has a business model.
We're working on it.
So here's a trick question, right? So I'm sorry that I missed the beginning of your brief, but you chose San Francisco,
Yeah.
right? Which has robo-taxis, right? There are Waymo-type robo-taxis. What is it that's unique to this experience that belongs to DIDI?
Happy?
What?
I don't know. Okay. So
It's a really hard question.
no, actually,
Really hard question.
when we consider-
Given that what makes it a DIDI experience and a DIDI car and not another San Francisco startup?
Yeah, so San Francisco is an old city that been used for testing robot taxi driverless vehicle because it's unique city structure, complex roads, but not like New York. And then San Francisco is more like technologies like West Coast areas. That's why it's very famous for testing all those driverless vehicles. And then what's unique of San Francisco for us is that San Francisco has the similar structure that we wanted to design for, like a lot of cities in China, Beijing, Shanghai, city environments, urban environments. And San Francisco does have like a medium, high incomes of users, daily commute, those different aspects, daily commutes, tour that fits into our profile and our design values a lot. That's what our specific smaller package tour and commute mode feature are designated for. That's the big reasons we chose San Francisco. And through the research, we're looking into the income levels, the population densities, does people moving in and out,
What
technology.
makes this unique for DIDI?
DIDI.
What's make that unique for DIDI?
It's a
Different from
really
Waymo.
difficult question.
It's a lot different. I think it's better than Waymo.
Are you going to maybe pick on one of your colleagues,
Yeah.
Bianca or Batman, if you've got some idea? Because it's a really hard question to answer, right? So I put you in a trick question, but it's...
Yeah, it's a really tricky question. We had that discussion too. So we're thinking the consistency might be very important for our future robotaxi passengers. For example, like small things like you enter this one, and then we will make sure the next one you get will have the exact same setup, like your seating posture, temperature. So because we have your user profile, so we know you. Even like a movie, you know, you watch halfway and then you will continue to play for it. So things like that will have our users knowing that I'm in another DIDI, not a
That's
Uber.
fancy.
So that kind of thing we
That's
do.
fancy.
And,
I was struck by what I consider to be a really luxury experience, right? Which is when there's a driver and they're waiting for you and they know where you're going and they pick up your, right? And it's a very, it feels to me like a very exclusive experience. And I felt that your focus on of the context, the city, and the hyper personalization, and the preemptive, I know you're going home in 2 hours, I'll be waiting, felt very white glove, to a certain, could be white glove experience.
yeah, that's very important.
As opposed to, I just want the cheapest one that'll get me to LAX by 5 p.m.
And also,
right?
I think while we are working on this project, Jay bring up a very interesting point. I think that's what makes the revolutions of driverless vehicle is that can people just using a driverless vehicle as their daily commute tour, not replacing their own cars, but use it for majority of the circumstances that they have their own space, private space, but they don't have to worry about the parking, and then that interior space, that exterior, it just made for it. It just feel like that's their own cars, they have their own private drivers, but in fact doesn't have any drivers. So that people were just frequently using these things. I think that's a big values of not just for DiDi's robot taxi, but for all the driverless vehicle in the future. That's why I think a lot of companies will actually looking into this market.
So what happens when the vehicle isn't being summoned or used, and you showed very congested cities with very difficult parking, and then they're electric, I'm assuming? They're electric. What happens? Where do they go to charge? Where do they go to park? The question is, what happens to the vehicles when they're not being used and when they need to be recharged or cleaned? What's the infrastructure to support that part of the product life cycle?
So when we did this project, we imagine we have like a hub that all the vehicle goes to charge and goes to clean, and and we also thought of like during the nights when there is less demand, we can actually use it to for stuff deliver, like it can deliver packages or like deliver food during the nighttime. Yeah.
So other than passengers,
Yeah.
passengers, thing delivery. It would be interesting to understand in a cityscape like San Francisco, how many of those hubs would you need? Would they be in parking garages? Would they be in buildings owned by the company? How would you integrate that into the fabric of the city so that it didn't add an extra burden to an already burdened city? Because you know high parking prices, you know congestion. So how do you have enough vehicles? If you look at the scooter problem, right? Just take the scooter as a micro problem. They get left in places and then they're not available where people need them, right? How do you keep them positioned so that nobody's waiting very long periods of time? Are they smart to know do they, let's say, learn over time where they're going to be in demand, and do they get themselves to the right places automatically so that they can anticipate the post-work rush or the early morning rush? Are there some features that you could talk about as you build out the story that they learn? Are they learning from their experience?
I think you could also in your presentation lean into AI, because you say the AI will, but really you described an algorithm, right? It wasn't really pushing on what is unique to AI. Like AI tells you a story, so does a video disc from the 1990s, right? So what is it unique about AI? And I think Babette is really touching on it there, is why is this system truly smarter and learning
Learning the patterns of the city.
what does it learn from?
Yeah. What are the elements it's putting into its database in order to say, you know what, and collectively, because it's a collective thing, it's like lots of little ambassadors running around the city, and then all that data comes to a central location where they then say, well, we need this percentage of vehicles here. It's not an individual decision. It's sort of like you've got an army and you need to position your
Actually,
soldiers.
FedEx has some of the best software for that, and also Uber Eats.
Yeah, I imagine. They
Uber
have cars in the
Eats
right.
has incredibly sophisticated software that helps you get hot to the right person at the right time. Right. It's quite complex.
Yeah, and I think that's an important feature when you're thinking about charging, and people don't want to wait, right? People don't want to wait.
I think also what you're saying, that makes me getting excited about this now. So far we're talking about it, as like a single entity, one vehicle, but imagine swarm technology
It's
and think
exactly
about
right.
what it means to be managing multiple vehicles in a swarm and how you might distribute intelligence and tasks and people.
I was trying to say that, but she said it better. It's the swarm concept and collecting data based on how to manage the swarm. Totally.
But it's fantastic
It
to
is.
have all these, and I think so. My own question, my hope is that that's what's also going to make it uniquely DiDi.
Yeah, I think so. You agree? I agree, yeah. For sure, I agree.
Congratulations.
Thank you.